Hey, how are you?
Doing very well. How are you?
Amazing, amazing. Give me a second. One
No
second.
worries.
All right, perfect. Cool, dude. Where are you calling in from?
Annapolis, what about yourself?
Calling in from Jersey. Jersey, we're outside New York City.
Not too far.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Cool. Cool, bro. Awesome. Well, I mean, it's a pleasure to chat. I'm happy that you reached out, bro, because like you look pretty young. How young are you? How old are you?
19. How about you?
19. Awesome, bro. I literally just turned 22 in October, like October 30th. So I just turned 22. I feel like an unk now, but
Really?
still young, I guess. Fire. Fire, bro. Cool. Well, what do you, if I remember correctly, you just cold outreached me, right? Or did someone connect us?
What?
We connected on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
All right, perfect. Cool, bro. Awesome. So how do you wanna do this? Do you want to talk a little bit? Do you want to dive right into the podcast? Like how do you normally do everything?
Yeah, so normally I do a introduction, so kind of like
Cool,
saying what episode number we are on, and then kind of a little bit of an introduction for the guest, and then
cool,
we
cool.
dive into it, if you will. So,
Yeah, perfect. Cool,
but
bro.
whatever works best.
Yeah, sure, bro. You tell me, man. You're the producer, so you tell me and I'll do whatever.
Okay. I mean, I can start it off if that's what we want to
Sure.
do.
Yeah, yeah, let's do it.
So, this is episode number 18 of the Young Entrepreneurs Podcast, and my guest is
Hi, my name is Tahnoon Murtaza. It's a pleasure to be on the podcast. I should I go into my background?
might as well.
Cool. So I have a really weird background, especially for a venture capitalist. But right now, what I do is I have a venture capital fund called Gracie Ventures. I mainly invest in young, distribution first founders. So think people who are very good at going very viral on social media, and they launch like consumer products or consumer tech, or like influencers, celebrity type companies that then are backed by a big influencer. That's like my thing. I invest in early stage. Before this, since the age of 6, I was pretty much in the music industry. Born and raised pretty much in entertainment. I started playing drums. At 12, I got featured in a big magazine for it, which got me deeper into the industry. At 15, I transitioned to like within the music industry. So I had a record label recording studio. At 18, I started an AI company. We were basically the first people to build like a senior citizen specialized AI platform. And then at 2021, I became the youngest partner of a $30 billion private equity firm. Fast forward now, I just turned 22 and I have my own VC firm. So we can dive into that however you want, but that's like the timeline of my weird background.
I mean, we can let's slow it down if you will. So you just brought up the influencer part,
Yeah.
and I know that you either live in New York City or it says on LinkedIn that you live
Yeah.
in New York. How does that kind of play? Because I know that um, I think his name is Eris Yeager. He's based in New York City. You know who I'm talking about? He's the kid who Preston's the French, but he owns his own company. He does.
Oh yeah, he's
I
awesome.
think he has
Story
story
time guy.
time, and then
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's a good
he's
friend of
gone
mine.
to Harvard and Yale. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Do you know him?
No, but I've watched his videos like a
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
lot.
He's a good friend of mine actually. We're doing a launch video for my fund and he's doing a cameo in it. We already
Oh, is
recorded
he really?
the other day. Yeah, yeah, he's the goat. I love this guy. Yeah, Aaron's awesome. But
So how?
uh,
No, go ahead.
No, no, yeah. To answer your question about like, like being New York based. So I basically am like a nomad at this point. So I'm like in New York about half the year, New York, Jersey, like that kind of region. Then I'm in San Francisco about half the year. Before this, I was splitting my time between Japan and New York. So like I'm like very much moving all over the place. I was just in Miami like the past like month-ish. I was like back and forth from Jersey and Miami. So I go wherever there's cool people and there's deals to be done.
Have you gone to Stad at all, or no?
Gstaad guide, you said? No.
Stad, like Switzerland.
Oh, Switzerland. Yeah, yeah, actually I have. I've been because so I have a weird. I've been to Switzerland a weird amount of times because I'm a really big fan of Swiss, like the airline. And so
Okay.
whenever I fly, because when I was flying to like New Zealand and because I spent a lot of time in New Zealand and Japan mainly, when I go to Japan and New Zealand, I would always fly Swiss. And so one of my best friends in the world is he's from Zurich. And so I would just extend my layover sometimes and I'd like either hang out with my boys or like I would just hang out in Switzerland. So yeah, I've been to Gstaad. I'm not a good skier though, so but I have been.
So how did you um I guess get started in the business? I know that you said you have your own company, but
Yeah.
what did you do right from being a senior in college to up until now, if you will?
So, yeah. So basically, I think what got me deeper into the venture cap, do you want to know specifically the venture capital or in terms of generally how I first got into business?
You can do both or whichever one you're comfortable with doing. It's fine.
All right, cool. So basically, I guess I'll do both then. So in terms of generally business, I had a weird background getting into business because I basically started as a musician. And so like I mentioned earlier in my brief introduction, I was playing drums since the age of 6. I did like, hundreds of concerts in my life. And at 12, I guess I got enough traction in the Jersey, New York kind of area for being this like super young punk metal drummer that I got featured in a magazine called Drum Magazine. And think like Drum Magazine, for those who don't know, it's kind of like the Forbes 30 to 30 for drumming, kind of. It's like the biggest magazine in the world for like drummers. And so I got featured at the age of 12. And to my knowledge, I think I'm still the youngest person ever featured, but don't quote me on this. I don't know. But that gave me exposure to a lot more like music industry people, record labels, managers, other punk and metal drumming artists. One of the people that I was able to get in contact with was the drummer of Breaking Benjamin, which is like a really big metal and kind of like punk band. Um, and actually one of my favorite bands at the time. So that was super surreal. And so he started basically, I got my first mentor at the age of 12. And so he started mentoring me. And my mother, God bless her, would drive like 2.5 hours each way from Jersey into Pennsylvania for me to meet him and get mentored by him. So I started building up this relationship with my first mentor at 12. And he really wanted to mentor me in terms of, introducing me to the right people in music industry, not to get screwed over by record labels, etc. So I had this kind of like mentor guide from a young age. And then fast forward when I was 13, this is where I guess I really kind of my mindset transitioned from an artist to a businessman. But at 13, I was backstage of a Judas Priest concert of Madison at Madison Square Garden with the Breaking Benjamin guys and some of the Deftones guys were there too. For context, Deftones is kind of like the Drake of metal, and like Judas Priest is kind of like the Tupac of metal for like context of like size. So they're like really big
Yeah.
artists. And I was backstage and I guess because I'm like this young kid, I'm like 13, and everyone else is like in their 40s and like they're way older than me. And there's this one guy who also stuck out because he was wearing like a navy blue suit and he's like a very like business banker type. And I basically started talking to this like banker, and I was like, trying by like, I want to do music, I want to be a professional musician. That's like all I want to do. And he basically gave me the advice of like, listen, like if you want to be a professional musician, it's a business and you have to treat it like one. And that advice really stuck with me. And I later found out that actually the guy who told me that was Jordan Belfort, the Wolf on Wall Street.
Okay.
Because apparently he's a big Judas Priest fan. And so when they do shows in New York, he's like backstage and stuff. And so I had this totally random encounter with Jordan. And I owe him a lot because that totally changed my whole perspective on how I looked at my music. And so I went back home that day and I went on YouTube and I was like, how do I start a business? And that's when I first learned about venture capitalists, not knowing that then years later I'd be one of them. But I first learned about venture capitalists. I was like, okay, turns out that being an artist is not like a venture backable business. But I did raise some money from other artists and friends and family stuff. I switched from drumming to playing guitar. I switched to more popular genres instead of like, punk and metal, which is more niche. And I basically literally, and I ran like SEO and like marketing campaign. Like I really treated it like literally like a business. I would look at YouTube like on startup videos on like how to promote my music. Um, Fast forward then when I was like 15, I had a few million streams across projects and platforms I worked on. And I held the position for a little bit on SoundCloud's new and hot alternative rock charts, #1 in the US. And so at that point, I realized the reason why it's not backable is that we get paid like as artists quarters of cents on the stream and like totally get screwed over by record labels. So I was like, shit, like I want to make money and I want to make music my life. And so then I sat there and I was like, how can I make a business out of what I built? And so I switched to music business side. So I started a recording studio and record label out in Jersey. I mainly dealt with like hip hop type guys, underground, like hip hop rap type artists. I produced for them, mixed engineered, and I had like a physical space as well as like a management kind of thing. That was much more lucrative, and I guess that's when I became a real entrepreneur. And that was like my real introduction to like business. So yeah, that's how I got into business originally. And then in terms of like with the VC, it was very similar in the sense that I guess so at a very young age, at 2021, I became the youngest partner of a large private equity firm. It's a long story how this happened, which we can dive into, but I joined this large private equity firm. I was literally, no exaggeration, one third to one fourth the age of all the other partners. All the partners were 60, 70, 80. They were three, four times my age. Because in private equity, it's not like VC. Like in private equity, being like a 40-year-old partner is like a young partner in private equity. And I'm half the age of that. And so I was like the youngest guy on Wall Street that I've ever met. And so like, especially on the private equity side. And so I built this really deep network and understanding with family offices and the fund side of things and how these private ventures get scaled and how institutional capital comes in. And I realized because all my friends are entrepreneurs, I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, that like 99 of VC firms suck. They like are horrible. Like they don't do anything for the founder. They like do these like very like don't mean anything like value add claims. They do these weird things. They don't like they're like very they don't do like proper contracting with a lot of founders. They do very predatory kind of things. Very similar to what I saw in record labels, which caused me to create a record label that didn't do that. So I was like, you know what? Let me build a VC fund that like if I when I was an entrepreneur, I wish existed. Especially someone in the consumer space. And so that's why I then left like just a few months back from my private equity to like focus on my VC. But that's how that came to be, was just kind of seeing a problem which I dealt with and my peers dealt with. Literally the same thing as when I built my record label and just saying, you know what, screw it. Like I'm gonna be the guy who fixes it.
So it's more kind of building it for yourself, if you will, and making it for people who kind of have the same problem, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. Because like all founders need to get capital, but the thing is like especially when it comes to influencers, people don't understand like a lot of these VCs, they're older dudes, right? So they don't understand the value of like UGC. They don't understand the value of having a big influencer promoting and pushing a product. They don't understand a lot of the dynamics, especially in the consumer space, which is why I personally think a lot of VCs get slaughtered in the consumer space because they don't know, they don't get these indications. Like I'm on the like you and I, we are the target demographic for most of these products. Like we're on the ground with these people. So it's a very different like understanding and I guess vantage point I have, which is why I started my fund really first principally from the idea that I am the type, I am the same as a lot of the founders that I'm backing. I have similar background and I come from a similar place and I'm a similar age. And so I'm able to understand them and their products better and build a better relationship. That was like the core beginning of what I was building.
And do you think now a lot of it is more going into a digital product than a physical, or do you think that it's a little bit of both?
I think it's totally a little bit of both. So I think that now, I think influencer or like, you know, creator first tech companies is the future of tech. I think you can see examples like Cluely, for example, with Roy Lee and the stuff he's doing. The stuff with like Series, Nate, like he's a friend of mine. Like these guys kill it so much on the social media, engineering, hyper viral side of everything that it creates the user base for their product. And I think my personal theory on this is that because social media democratized having a voice, so everyone can post and everyone can say something and sell something. Now, in order to penetrate, you have to find people who either already have that audience. So, like, you know, like big influencer, like Taylor Swift or something, or we have to find someone who has that ability to penetrate into that market. So I've invested in tech companies before with my fund. Actually, one of my favorite founders is the founder of a tech company called Giggles. It's like a Gen Z focused, modernized social media platform. And like, you know, I think that creator first tech and digital products is definitely the future. But I don't think CPG and stuff is going anywhere. I mean, my first portfolio company is with a CPG product backed by Summer Rae, who's like a big influencer and model. Um, so that's like I think both are totally legitimate.
Well, meaning like if you're, let's say you're stud guy and you have
Oh,
your social media brand, and then you're
yep.
selling your Laura Piana bracelets or whatever
Yeah,
it is, meaning
yeah.
you bring the two in together so that your one is helping to support your other one, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because I think in consumer, marketing is everything. Um, because at the end of the day, like I personally, this I guess is a hot take, but I don't believe proprietary tech exists anymore. I don't believe that like someone can develop some technology that no one else has thought of or no one else can just copy. Not consumer tech. Like any consumer tech product, some an Indian guy or a Pakistani guy with lovable AI in a weekend could copy whatever. So it's like at that point, what differentiates you is not even the product anymore, especially in consumer. It's the brand and the associations people have with it and this culture that you're able to build around it. Like I think clearly the reason why have a $200 million valuation now. And the reason why they had like millions of sales their first week of launch was because of Roy Lee's story and him promoting it and getting hyper viral. It wasn't because clearly it's some product you can't copy or that is not like, you know what I mean? So I think it's the future. You need the voice in order to promote consumer stuff now.
Now, what was it like meeting Jordan Belford? Was it kind of what you expected, or is it like different?
Well, you know what? You know what's so funny is I didn't even know who the guy was until I was 13. And so I only knew like rock stars. I like you asked me names of like Dave Mustaine, Cliff Burton. Like you asked me like rock stars, I'll tell you rock stars all day at that point, but I didn't know businessman. The person who pointed it out was my dad was with me. And like this other guy was like a part of the band or something. And the guy who was talking to my dad was like, "Yo, do you know who your son's talking to?" And my dad was like, he looks super familiar. Like, who is this guy? He's like, oh, it's Jordan Belfort. Like, they made a movie about him. And so then afterwards, my dad came up to me. He's like, do you know who you were just talking to? I was like, no. He's like, oh, it's Jordan Belfort. Like, they made a movie about him. And funny enough, I did not end up seeing the movie until like years later when I was like 16 or like 15 or something. And I finally watched The Wolf of Wall Street. But no, Jordan, like, I remember him when I talked to him, he felt like a very nice, just New York guy. He had the New York accent. He was like a New York dude. And like he felt like I thought he was a music manager when I was talking to him, actually. I didn't think he was like a banker or something. So like it was a weird interaction because I didn't know who he was. But I mean, I only talked to him that one time, and I'd love to reconnect with him because, like, honestly speaking, like truly, he was the biggest instrumental shift in my mindset that caused me to now be doing what I'm doing now. If it wasn't for him, I would have still been doing drums probably. I would have still been I still drum for fun and stuff, but I probably would have been trying to like make it as a metal drummer. That's what I would have been doing. So I owe him a lot.
So it's a lot of kind of shifting what where you were before, but also to what he's done, but also to take it, if you will.
Yeah, I think knowing that the advice came from someone with such an like a big reputation, a movie was made about him, it definitely made me take what he was saying more serious. But I think it was also just like as a young artist, no one tells you about the business side. They just tell you, like I remember when I was young, they would tell me just keep practicing, you'll make it, just keep working hard, you'll make it. This is the advice you get, which is such horrible advice because like some of the most talented musicians in the world are like bustling in the New York subway, right? So it's like it's horrible advice. At the end of the day, I think, and maybe this is the reason why I view consumer in this way. I think music industry is the biggest pinnacle of like the product doesn't matter. It's about the marketing. Like for example, like I don't what type of music do you listen to? Do you listen to, like hip hop, pop music? What do you normally listen to?
So it's mostly new wave music and a little bit of reggae and
All right,
some
fine.
jazz.
Did you know like Two Hollis? Okay. Do you know
I
like
don't
like
really know who that is, to be honest.
okay? What new wave artist do you listen to?
I've been listening to Echo and the Bunnymen and Simple Minds. It really depends on like
All
whatever
right.
mood I'm in.
All right, fire, fire. Well, the point being that I think with a lot of these artists, especially now, I think marketing becomes so big. So like Two Hollis is like he's like blowing up right now. He's like a big like EDM rapper. I actually really like his music personally, but it's like his sound is not super uneasy to copy or have other people sound exactly the same. But his brand and his kind of like his marketing behind him is so strong that you want to listen to him and not like some copy of him. And so I think like maybe that's why I'm such a marketing first, distribution first person, is comes from the music industry mindset.
Now, how did I know that what's the thing I'm trying to say? The white elephant in the room, your most recent connection. How is that? Is that a more or less a fan?
Oh, the Sticks guy?
Correct. Is it more of kind of
Uh,
a fan appreciation, or is that more of kind of a here's somebody who's done very well and is able to accelerate me, if you will?
I think with him, it was really the idea that I invest into mainly influencers and celebrities. And so he is literally one of the biggest 80s rock stars. Like Styx made like some of the biggest songs that like you and I have heard, even though we're like generations after. And so like it was really about the idea that I can highlight a cosign from a really amazing LP who has come in and supported what I'm trying to build. And it's not the typical LP persona you think of. Like, I wanted to highlight that I have like people backing me who are not just the typical like, oh, I'm a fund of funds or I'm like an LP traditionally or I'm a venture capitalist or entrepreneur. It's like a rock star. It's an 80s rock star who like was touring the world and still does. And like, actually, I'm probably gonna be visiting them. I'm probably gonna go with them to their tour in Vegas. And so like it was about just highlighting a cosign from like a really amazing person who's just a great dude. And also just like has built something incredible in the past and not the traditional thing you typically see for an LP.
And to kind of like getting your foot in the door, if you
Yeah,
will.
exactly.
So what's kind of next with your venture capital company, if you will?
Yeah. In terms of what's next, I have that promo video, the launch video that I with the European kid cameoing. So I have that. We're building that. I just shot the bulk of it yesterday. We did the shoot with the production team, everything. We're out in Jersey. It was a bunch of Jersey guys, so we got it done. So that's one. Also, just building up more portfolio companies, building up, relationships with really cool founders. Um, Also, and I just had a meeting before this where someone was talking because it's like end of year and people are like, "What are your goals for 2026?" And I was telling him, for me, the reason why I started this fund and the reason why I really start anything is because I want to surround myself with amazing people and I want to build things with people who are building cool things. And I want people who back me to be people who want to support that. And so I'm a very people-driven person. And so in 2026, one of the goals is figuring out more ways that I can support those amazing people around me, especially in my fund. So like one of them is I'm working on some partnerships with some really large royal family backed funds in the Middle East for helping with follow-on capital for some of my portfolio companies, building relationships with like different influencers and like media companies and these kind of people. So really building out that network. I think that's like one of the big things as well. And just try to create a VC that, if you're one of these people and consumer and you're someone who's like, I love making viral videos and I want to push my product using my skill, that I'm like the first guy that comes to mind. That's like the idea.
Now, what did your AI company do that you talked about earlier?
Yeah, yeah. So when I was 18, my younger brother and so I went to Babson College. My younger brother also goes to Babson now. We founded Recommune, which was basically the first senior citizen specialized AI platform. So we were basically the first people, at least in the Western world, that had training data, UI, UX, um, the actual like design, everything to be specialized for senior citizens, mainly to help with things like dementia, loneliness, memory retention, these kind of things. And so it really, the way we came up with that was because we used to volunteer at senior homes, um, playing guitar, singing, and we saw how serious the loneliness and dementia and memory retention issues are for a lot of our seniors in America. And we wanted to be able to help that. And originally we did that through volunteering, spending time with them, whatever. But of course, we're only two people, and that's not scalable. And so we were trying to figure out ways that we could scale that help. And we thought, wow, like AI would be such a good tool. Like, let's try to get like, AI into the senior home and in the homes that we're with and stuff, and let our grandmother use it and this kind of thing. And very quickly, we realized that ChatGPT and the AIs are not designed for seniors. They're very small buttons. They're confusing. The conversations are not optimized for senior citizens. The way they talk and everything is a bit weird. And it just felt awkward and like they didn't like it. And we're like, you know what? Like, screw it. How about we make something which they would want to use? And then we built Recommune. And after 2 years, I took a step back as CEO to join the private equity. But my brother took over as CEO and he's been killing it. He's been scaling it like crazy. Now we're in multiple languages and stuff. So he's a much better entrepreneur than me. I guess that's why I went to the funding side. But yeah, he's killing it.
Now, what did you kind of take away um from your time at Babson that applied either to currently now or um your first business?
Yeah. I mean, anyone who knows me personally knows that I'm probably like the biggest Babson advocate. I think Babson is the best university in the world. It is the only university I applied to, and I think it's the only university for undergrad I would ever go to. So I think Babson has helped me in like so many ways. I mean, first of all, I mean, literally just the network directly like has helped me. Like basically inadvertently, the guy who ended up connecting me with the guy who ran the PE fund was Babson affiliated. And so like it was like it was a chain of events there, but I would not have joined the private equity if it wasn't for Babson, basically. And so like I think Babson, the network and the support and alumni matter, it's really strong. So that's the number one thing. It's just network is everything. If you have a strong network and you have good people around you, you can just build cool stuff. That's just like number one. But beyond that, I think it really taught me, especially my freshman year, I think, it taught me how entrepreneurs don't sit there and plan. Entrepreneurs don't sit there and make these crazy business plans and try to figure out everything and say, oh, we're going to do this and do that. It's about literally just unrelenting, relentless action. And you're going to fail like constantly, but it's just like do it, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. And then at some point, you break through that wall and you succeed. And that's like how I approach everything. Like, my big thing is my saying is like I like to be the guy who builds the airplane on the way down. So it's like as we're in the air already and we're going down and I'm gonna figure out the manual on how to build this thing while I'm in the air. Because that's what being an entrepreneur is, in my opinion. So I think it was really that mindset more than anything else. Also, there's a really good tax class at Babson, which has really helped me like legally minimize tax. That's like also really good. I always tell all the people at Babson to take that class. That was like really helpful. So yeah, like that was I think the top three things are those.
Was it the was it what the class taught, or was it the teacher and the way that it was taught that is kind of recommended?
It was both. I've never heard of another school in the world having a tax that is a class that is literally about tax optimization. It wasn't like here's how you fill out your W-2s. This is how you do. It was like okay, if you structure something in Cayman Islands and you do this and then you do that, then you'll be able to minimize tax. It was like this. So it was like this is the type of information which unless your family comes from a background which they already do this or you like built up enough wealth that that becomes relevant that you would know. And so like this was a way to get access to that knowledge base that can help you even on the smaller scale. I mean, even if you're a small business, some of these tax efficiencies are just like the American tax code is designed for this, but most Americans and most people don't know how to leverage them. And so I think it was really the content and also I mean, the professor he did this for one of the biggest families in America. So he was very qualified. He was awesome. He was like a really, really smart guy. Um, really amazing prof. So yeah, I mean, it was a bit of both.
And so would you say that running your own business, but also your own VC that it carried over?
Oh yeah. I mean, the thing I love about VCs is we're inherently a tax efficient structure. Because like if you actually look at how VCs are structured, it's the three-prong structure. So it's the way it's designed is inherently tax efficient. So with my VC, it's much easier than like with a startup or something. But yeah, I mean, it's just very, very useful. And to be frank with you, as a fund manager, my job is to manage ultra high net worth individuals and high net worth individuals' funds. That's why I'm getting paid is that they're like we trust Tahnoon to invest our money into cool influencer backed celebrity consumer stuff. That's like what they give me money for. And so me understanding the tax code and understanding the ways and the reasons why they do business also just helps be able to connect with them because it's like an inherent part of their lifestyle and an inherent part of how they operate that most people do not have I guess a reference point with. And so I'm able to have that one more reference point of just understanding and being able to connect and especially in a business context, I think that's huge.
Now, what if what is something that surprised you that you wish that you had learned either much sooner or while you were in school or while you were in starting a business?
Hmm. That's a good question. I think I you know, I think focus is the biggest one. I think that I'm one of those people where like my brain goes like everywhere and I'm like, oh, I could do this and then I could do this and then oh yeah, I could do this. And I'm like, that's like how I am. And I'm a very like high energy guy. And that's just like my brain like just fires everywhere. But what I've realized is unrelenting focus on one thing and pushing and pushing and pushing on that one thing will get you further than 10 times the work in like five different things. So I think that was the biggest thing because like this fund has been something where like I promised myself, I was like, I don't care what else is going on. This is the only sole thing that I care about and the only thing that I'm focusing on in my life. Like this is my life is this fund. And I think that that concentration has caused it to grow at like a rapid pace, which even my startup grew very fast, but I mean, not like this. This like it's taken off kind of like a rocket, and the people supporting me, the people backing me, and this kind of support is just like I think focus, but like real focus. Like you got to wake up, and it's got to be the only thing on your head. Like you can't be thinking about girls, you can't be thinking about like you can't be thinking about like other businesses or hanging out with your boys. Like this is what I do, and this is what I wake up and all I think about. And I think that that just mental framing was huge.
Um, I don't mean to time constrain this, but I'm
Yeah.
gonna speed this up a little bit. So the question that has been left for you is, what are three international places that you've been from the last guest?
Oh, three international places. So I was living in Japan half the year the past 2 years. So Japan. I spent a lot of time in New Zealand. I consider New Zealand home more than any other country. I even helped some VCs and stuff out there with getting stuff to America. So I love New Zealand. I think New Zealand. And I'm a really big fan of England. I really like England. One, I have some family there, as I feel like every Pakistani guy has some family in England. But like England is beautiful. I love the architecture especially. So yeah, I'd say like, those are like three places that I've been and I really loved.
And then what is your question for the next person that comes on?
Next
You
question.
don't know who the person's gonna be at
I
all.
love that. That's so cool. Okay, I guess my question for the next guy would be, um, if you could tell your if you could tell your 6-year-old self something to prepare them for the rest of their life, what would you tell them? That would be
That's
my question.
that's it. And
Yep.
then my final question is gonna be, who are 2 to 3 people that you would recommend, either for that you would recommend,
For like just generally like check out and listen to and it.
either that or for potential guests for the podcast.
Yeah. I mean, I think in terms of generally people that I like would recommend anyone listening check out. I think that Chris Sacca is like the best venture capitalist in history. I'm a big fan of his ethos and his thesis on how he invests. So I think Chris Sacca is like a great guy. Um, I would also say in terms of people for the podcast, I think Nate from Series is like an amazing mind. He's a great dude. Honestly, like one of the most chill guys ever. Like when you talk to him, it just feels like you're talking to like your boy. So he's like a great dude. And super smart. The way that he's been able to grow series and everything is like crazy. So I think Nate. Um, I think also, honestly, also I would say Aaron. I think like the European kid, like the stuff he's built, his content, and now his story time and everything. I think he's an amazing dude. Really amazing content creator from New York. So like I gotta rep and I gotta support the East Coast. So yeah, I would say shout out the European kid.
And then is there any advice or any last remarks that you have before I wrap it up, if you will?
Yeah, I would say for anyone watching, my biggest advice would be being young and age is one of the best advantages you have. If you are like a 13-year-old, 14-year-old listening to this, 'cause I know this podcast is mainly for young entrepreneurs, just go for it. Because I found that being 21 when I started my VC, I'm so young for a venture capital fund. Then when I reached out to people, they just want to help me. Like, do you know Techstars, like the accelerator? And maybe you're probably familiar.
A little bit.
Yeah, the founder of Techstars helped me with my pitch deck just because I was like a young venture capitalist trying to build something crazy, and they're like, you know what? Like, let's do it. So like, if you're like young listening to this, just go for whatever you're trying to do and just reach out to people. Cold outreach is like the best thing in the world. I've gotten like so much success from just reaching out to people and being young and they just wanting to help and support and pass it forward. So yeah, I think being young is one of your best advantages. There's nothing that I think a young person can't do or can't revolutionize. So just embrace that and just try to find amazing mentors for yourself.
You know who I've seen who said that is Palmer Luckey from Oculus. He
Oh,
said to kind of use it to gauge it to your advantage. Like when you're a 19-year-old kid, everybody's going to want to help you. But then
Yep.
when you're 25 to 30, it's kind of when there's a slow gap and people are like,
Yep.
you're you're not as young as you are. And so it's kind of like help people, but then slow down if you will.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Exactly. So take advantage of that while you can. I mean, I wish that I did this more when I was like 14, 16, you know? Like I wish I was doing more cold outreach at that age, but yeah, cold outreach, especially if you're in your teens, like that's like such an advantage.
Any last words before I wrap it up, or was that
I
kind
guess
of it?
you know what? I would say last words would be I think God is always important. Remember faith, whether that's a religion or general spirituality. Remember family and remember that at the end of the day, if you're an entrepreneur, you're trying to make money. So always try to make money.
All right, this was episode number 18 of the Young Entrepreneurs. I want to thank Tahnoon for taking the time out of his busy day. I'm sure that he has a lot going on. Um,
My pleasure.
so currently we are on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and then Amazon Music as well. So if you're watching it, you know what to do. Hit a subscribe button, notification button, and don't forget to leave a comment and share it. Always keep the podcast growing because that's what helps. And until next time, peace.
Peace.